UFC Fight Night Strickland versus Magomedov is this weekend. I'm going to give you a full card prediction and breakdown of the entire card, starting with the matchup of Guram Kutateladze versus Elves Brenner on the prelims. This is going to be the opening fight, it looks like, which is pretty interesting in general. This is actually a pretty underrated card. I'm going to really look forward to this one in general. There's a couple fights where I'm going to be a little standoffish with because probably like a couple piss breaks, a couple of the women's fights, maybe just one of them, but I think it's on the main card too. But should be an interesting fight here if it actually happens. Guram Kutateladze, maybe this is why this is the opening matchup on this entire card, but Guram Kutateladze cannot make a fight to save his life. A very good fighter in general, 12-3, 2 fights in the UFC, won a split decision against Mateusz Gamrot, which people thought could have gone either way. And same thing kind of with Damir Ismagulov here in 2022, but he's missed 4 fights while being in the UFC. Missed a fight against Don Madge twice, Damir Ismagulov, and most recently against Thiago Moises and Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey, who's scheduled to fight. I'm not sure exactly why he pulled out. Maybe I missed something there, but he withdrew from that fight in early June, and now he's fighting late June. So we'll see if he makes the fight here. This is really the big question. I think he beats Elves Brenner. Elves Brenner had a close fight with Zabrayo Tukagov, and honestly, Guram Kutateladze is making it very close and winning some of these fights against Mateusz Gamrot and Damir Ismagulov, some of the best lightweights in the world. In the top 15 at least, I think Damir Ismagulov is actually pretty good as well. So I'm going to go with Kutateladze, 96% for Kutateladze. 4% for Brenner is very, very interesting. I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe they hope the fight gets canceled and their pick doesn't go through, but he's from Shootbox, so I guess you can put it that way. But I'm going to go with Kutateladze in this matchup. We'll see if it happens. Up the card, we have Alexander Romanov versus Blagoy Ivanov. This matchup, again, another interesting one. I think this one could definitely go either way. Alexander Romanov coming off 2 very sucky losses here against Marcin Tybura. I believe that was at altitude in Utah. I think he should have gotten the 10-8 round in the first round, and then he definitely did lose the last 2 rounds. I think it should have been a draw. It was a majority decision for Marcin Tybura, but that was a pretty much a sucky loss there. He couldn't really do much in general in altitude because he has such a dominant wrestling style. And after that first round, he got very, very tired just trying to finish Marcin Tybura after getting that 10-8. But lost to Alexander Romanov by KO, and that's not something you want. I think he failed a takedown, and he pretty much that fight was over for him. So it's just not looking good for Romanov. Was 16-0 before that last fight against Marcin Tybura. Is now fighting Blagoy Ivanov in this matchup, who lost to Tybura in his last matchup by decision, beat Marcos Rogerio de Lima by decision, lost to Augusto Sakai by split decision, lost to Derek Lewis by split decision, and then beat Tai Tuivasa by decision. So I'm going to go with Alexander Romanov. This is a closer matchup. I think he does end up getting a takedown here. I think he does maybe try and ground and pound him. I don't know. This is a very risky matchup. 68% for Romanov, 62% by decision. I think he could probably finish this one maybe in the first round. We'll see, though. I'm not too confident in this pick, but I'm going to go with Romanov. I think he ends up getting the takedown, lands some really good ground and pound shots, and maybe he does that for the next 3 rounds. Hopefully he's got everything figured out. Maybe he has some offset, even though it was 6 months apart, but he had some offset bad altitude cardio that just like transport over mentally or something. I don't know, but Volkov's pretty good anyways. So I'm gonna take him here in this matchup. I'm gonna take Romanov maybe by finish. I think maybe in the first or second round. That's what I'm gonna go here, like TKO ground and pound finish. Up the card we have Joanderson Brito versus Westin Wilson. A very interesting matchup being made here. They don't even have the odds on here either, which I think it's probably going to be really big odds. But 28-year-old Joanderson Brito taking on Westin Wilson, I believe coming in on short notice, 34 years of age. Let me actually check this real quick. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, he's supposed to fight Hussein Askabov. And Westin Wilson's now coming in. I think Joanderson Brito knocks him out, in all honesty. I think Westin Wilson keeps his chin up high, arms all the way down by his waist. It doesn't have the movement or the speed to really use his style to actually be effective on the feet. Has really good grappling, but so does Joanderson Brito. I think Joanderson Brito KOs him. If you know about, Chepe Mariscal, who just fought Trevor Peek last weekend and beat him and had a little bit of a war, landed some really good shots on him. Joanderson, Brito put him out cold, beat Diego Lopez by decision on the Contender Series, lost to Bill Algeo by decision, beat Andre Fili by KO, which is actually a very good win, especially by KO, and then beat Lucas Alexander by submission. Westin Wilson coming in on short notice after beating Fabricio Franco by submission. Yeah, I just think Joanderson Brito is just going to KO him. You're putting your chin up that high, leaving yourself that wide open. I think he's going to catch him. Good on the ground, but Joanderson Brito is good on the ground as well. So I'm going to take him here by KO in the first round. Tapology has him 96% for Brito, 75% by KO. I agree there. Let's move on. Up the card, we have Ivana Petrovic versus Luana Karolina. Petrovic beat Eluina Wozniak by submission, Rinat choke. Beat Alexandra Takana by Rinat choke. I feel like if I just run through these names, but she has some decent wins on her record out of France. Aries FC, 7-1. Ewelina Wozniak. I don't know why I couldn't say that name, but 7-1. Good opponent there. Beat her there. And then beat a 2-0 opponent as well. Luana Karolina coming off a couple losses to Joanne Wood by split decision, and Molly McCann, where she got put out cold brutally. Beat Lupita Godinez, which isn't a bad win to have. Beat Poliana Botelho, and then lost to Ariane Lipski, which is not a good loss to have either. I think I'm going to go with Ivana Petrovic on this matchup, even though I can't say her name. I think she takes her down on the ground, out-grapples her there. Maybe a possible submission win here. It is women's MMA, so submissions are the way to go if you do want a finish in a fight. I think she does have a good chance at submitting her here. 91% are picking Petrovic by submission here. 91% are picking her here. 48% by submission. I think she gets this one done. Maybe by finish, maybe by decision. Maybe this one goes like a little bit later on and she gets a finish later on the ground. She does have some good ground and pound, some really nice elbows. We'll see what happens here. I think she does win. I'm just not too certain. Maybe she does end up getting a submission, but we'll see what happens here. I'm going to go with Ivana Petrovic by submission in late first round, maybe second round. I think that's what I'll settle on for this one. Of the card, we have Yana Santos versus Karol Rosa. I think I'm going to go with Karol Rosa in this matchup. Her last fight was against Norma Dumont, I believe, at featherweight. And Norma Dumont, I think, is a really good featherweight, if not probably just outside of... She's probably, at this point, the best featherweight in that division, if that really means anything. Norma Dumont, very good fighter, in my opinion. I think she beat Daniel Wolf, who was like a pro boxer or something, who didn't actually look good at all in general. But she did really decent in that fight against Norma Dumont, especially towards the end of that fight. I believe she dropped her in that third round and landed some good shots on her. The fight IQ necessarily wasn't there after she dropped her. She held her against the fence. They were basically doing that the whole fight. I am going to go with her in this match. I think Yana Santos, although she did lose to Holly Holm and Irene Aldana, I think Karol Rosa mixes in some fence, pushes her up against the fence, mixes in some of the striking a little bit more, and wins I won't say lackluster, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a boring matchup here. People got Rosa by 76% here, 92% by decision. I agree with them. I think she wins a little bit of a boring decision here. 33 years old for Yana Santos, 28 years old for Karol Rosa. I think she gets this one done. Up the card, we have Kevin Lee versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. Another interesting matchup. Kevin Lee making his UFC re-debut after beating Diego Sanchez on Eagle FC, having a pretty bad performance in that matchup. Diego Sanchez was doing really good. I believe he hurt. Did Kevin Lee injure his ACL or something? I don't remember exactly what the injury was, but Diego Sanchez looked decent in that, and that's not good for Kevin Lee after leaving the UFC after getting, I think he got cut for, what was it, Adderall or something? He got released. I don't know exactly. He got released for taking Adderall, didn't agree with it or whatever, ended up leaving. Diego Sanchez came back. Now he's fighting Rinat Fakhretdinov, which is a very interesting fighter. I think Kevin Lee will be better on the feet, but on the ground, I think is a little bit more questionable here. Kevin Lee has fought the better opponents, I believe, in his career than a Rinat Fakhretdinov, but Brian Battle's a pretty good fighter as well. Isn't as talented on the ground. I think Brian Battle does have some solid grappling, but Rinat Fakhretdinov is way better on the ground there. And then beat Adrian Michailidis by decision. Again, Rinat Fakhretdinov, very good wrestler, very good at keeping control. I don't even know. I think he pretty much controlled most of the fight on the ground against Brian Battle. I don't know exactly how much time, but it was definitely at least probably over 10 minutes at that point. But Kevin Lee, we'll see what his wrestling looks like against Rinat Fakhretdinov. Maybe he's going to be able to defend some of these takedowns and hurt Rinat on the feet and then finish him or something. But I'm going to go Rinat Fakhretdinov. Kevin Lee did not look good against Diego Sanchez, and I can't trust him in this matchup. So I'm going to go Rinat by decision. 83% of Tapology agree with me here. 76% by decision as well. That's what I got here. We'll see what Kevin Lee can do. Only 30 years of age as well. We'll see. Let's move on. Up the card, we have Nursulton Ruziboev, I think is how you say his name, versus Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira coming off a very good win against Gregory Rodriguez, I believe, on UFC 283. Put him straight out cold in the first round. Did have some moments in there. Did get hit a couple times. Took a couple good punches from Gregory Rodriguez. Beat Leon Aliu on Contender Series by KO in the first round as well. Again, both of these guys have gotten a lot of finishes in the first round. I believe Bruno Ferreira, undefeated, 70% of his wins. I'm sorry. Let's see. 3 subs, 5 TKOs in the first round. Has 2 TKOs in the second round. And for Ruziboev, 9 TKOs in the first round. Let's see. 15 subs in the first round, 1 TKO in the second round, 5 subs in the second round, and then 2 TKOs in the third round. And only has, 2 decisions in his career. So both of these guys are finishers. I am going to go with Bruno Ferreira. I did see people saying that Ruziboev is going to take him down. And I think, in all honesty, he is 6'4", and Bruno Ferreira is a very small dude, at least for what it looks like at the middleweight division. And Gregory Rodriguez, you can see how much taller Gregory Rodriguez was to Bruno Ferreira. But Bruno Ferreira is a smaller, stockier dude, and it's going to be harder to get some of these takedowns. And for Ruziboev on the feet, he does kind of leave his chin out a little bit more. He is a little bit more of a distance striker. Hands do drop when he throws kicks. And I think Bruno Ferreira, just the way he strikes, I think he can end up catching Ruziboev early on in this fight. And I think Bruno Ferreira, I don't think he's going to go for takedowns. Ruziboev's good in the grappling department, but I don't know if he can take down Bruno Ferreira. I guess we kind of got to see here. But Bruno Ferreira has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I believe. Nursulton Ruziboev, I believe in his last couple matchups, ended up getting taken down himself. And that's how he ended up getting some of those submissions, or at least in positions where these guys fall over and he ends up just getting top position and moving over to the bottom and finishing him off that way. But I think he does leave himself a little bit open. I think Bruno Ferreira has some insane power. You saw what he did to Gregory Rodriguez. Landed some good shots on him as well. Maybe Ruziboev can use his distance here and kind of control him from the outside and land some spinning back kicks to the body, because Bruno Ferreira does look like he is putting on a little bit more weight for the middleweight division. Maybe he could cut a little bit more down. It is 185 to 170, so I don't know necessarily how bad a weight cut it would necessarily be. But maybe use some of those uses the outside a little bit more. Spinning back kicks to the body, uses distance with his hands. I don't know his reach, so I guess that's a little bit more uncertain there. But I think Bruno Ferreira just ends up catching him on the chin. He is open on the feet, and that's how I see this one going. First round KO. Ruziboev is definitely a decent fighter. We'll see what he can do here, but I'm going to go with Bruno Ferreira here. He hasn't fought the best of opponents recently, the records show it, but 12-12 opponent taking you down. It was super short notice. I think it was same day notice as well. Let me actually check this real quick. He was supposed to fight Kleber Sosa on 4/10/2022. Ended up fighting Pavel Masalski on 4/10 as well. So, and if you just look at some of these opponents, I mean, the records are there, but when you see them fight, they don't look like they should necessarily be in there. But I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. This is definitely a closer matchup in general, but I'm going to go with Bruno Ferreira by KO in the first round. 78% of Tapology agree with me here. 85% by KO in this matchup. So we'll see what Bruno Ferreira can do here. I think this is going to be a closer matchup, but I think he does end up getting the KO. Up the card, we have Benoit Saint-Denis versus Ismael Bonfim. I'm going to go with Ismael Bonfim in this matchup after destroying, I wouldn't say necessarily destroy. Well, I guess he was hitting Terrence McKinney quite a bit. He showed how much more technical Terrence McKinney is and how untechnical Terrence McKinney is, and hit him with a flying knee and put him absolutely out cold. And before then, on the Contender Series, beat Nariman Abasab by decision as well. Benoit Saint-Denis, after getting beaten up pretty badly against Elezu Zaleski, went on to win against Nicholas Stolz and Gabriel Miranda. Won that one by KO. I am going to go with Ismael Bonfim. I think he can avoid some of the takedowns from Benoit Saint-Denis and then just kind of points him a little bit more. I think he does land some damaging shots. Benoit Saint-Denis is a very, very tough fighter, so I don't think he's going to get finished here, but I think Ismael Bonfim is going to do a good job just pointing him, staying out of a bad range for a takedown where Benoit Saint-Denis can get him down to the ground and basically show off his grappling there. I think Ismael Bonfim is just going to defend some of the takedowns, do well on the feet here, and then win this one by decision. 86%. Agree with me with Tapology here. 60% by TKO, 31% by decision for this one. That's actually very interesting. 60% by KO. I don't know. Maybe they think Zaleski took something off of him in that fight. We'll see. Benoit Saint-Denis is a very, very tough dude. So we'll see what happens here. I am going to go with Ismael Bonfim by decision. Up the card, we have Ariane Lipski versus Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto 8-1-2. Ariane Lipski 15-8. Melissa Gatto coming off a loss to Tracy Cortez by decision. Beat Sierra Eubank by KO. Beat Victoria Leonardo by KO. Beat Karol Rosa by Kimura. Amateur. Ariane Lipski beat JJ Aldrich, which isn't that good. It lost to Priscilla Cachoeira by KO. Beat Mandy Bone by decision, which isn't that good of a win. Lost to Montana De La Rosa by KO. Lost to Antonina Shevchenko by KO. So I'm just going to go with Melissa Gatto here. Remember, this is a women's MMA, so anything can really happen, but I think she does win this matchup. Ariane Lipski beats JJ Aldrich, who isn't that good, beats Mandy Bowman, isn't that good, and loses to Priscilla Cachoeira. Like, you can see the kind of level where she's at. Melissa Gatto lost to a ranked Tracy Cortez and beat Karol Rosa, who does at least look decent. So I'm going to go with Melissa Gatto here. It is a closer one in the percentages here, but I'm going to go with Melissa Gatto by decision. This is one of those matchups where you can make some food or whatever on the main card. Up the card, we have Max Griffin versus Michael Morales. This one's a very interesting one as well. We haven't seen Michael Morales in quite a bit. It's been 10 months since we last seen him. I think he was supposed to have a couple of fights booked, but I think they ended up getting canceled. He's supposed to fight Ramiz Brahimaj and then wasn't able to fight Rinat Fakhretdinov. That bout got canceled as well. But Michael Morales is a very good prospect in the welterweight division. Beat Adam Fugit by KO. That was a little bit of an interesting matchup. I thought he was going to do at least decently quick work with Adam Fugit. Adam Fugit was tough. I don't know why. It didn't seem like Michael Morales was on it in that fight. I don't know. Maybe I guess we kind of get to learn about Michael Morales in this fight against a pretty decent fighter in Max Griffin here, who won a split decision against Tim Means. Arguably could have won against Neil Magny by split decision there. Beat Carlos Condit by decision. Beat Kenan Song by KO. Beat Ramiz Brahimaj by KO. So very good fighter, Max Griffin. He is getting a little bit older at 37 years of age here, but Michael Morales, 3-inch reach advantage. Younger fighter, lots of length. I think he mixes in maybe the takedowns here, lands some good punches on the feet. I think he just mixes in the fight for this one. Very balanced. And I think he ends up winning by decision. 88% for Michael Morales here. 67% by KO, 24% by decision. We'll see if he does end up getting the KO, but I think he does get the decision for sure. I don't know if I see him getting the KO, but if he does, it'll be very impressive. We'll see what Max Griffin can do. We'll see how good Michael Morales really is when facing a really good veteran in the UFC and Max Griffin. So we'll see what happens here. I am going to go with Michael Morales by decision. Up the card to our co-main event, we have Damir Ismagulov versus Grant Dawson. Damir Ismagulov coming off a loss to Arman Tsarukyan, where I believe he did retire for a little bit. And I think unretired. I think I may get this a little bit wrong, but I think Damir Ismagulov has like one fight left on his deal, I think is what he said, and he kind of just wanted to get it over with. I could be completely wrong there. But lost to Arman Tsarukyan, beat Guram Kutateladze by split decision, beat Rafael Alves by decision, beat Thiago Moises by decision, beat Yoel Alvarez by decision as well. So very good fighter in the lightweight division. Grant Dawson coming off a win against Mark Madsen, beat Jared Gordon, drew with Ricky Glenn, beat Leonardo Santos by KO, beat Nad Nurmani. So he is kind of coming up in this division. We'll see how he does in this matchup. I think Damir Ismagulov wins. He's shown really good takedown defense, especially in the Arman Tsarukyan fight. Arman Tsarukyan was able to end up getting points in that matchup of control, just holding him down on the ground and out wrestling him. But Damir Ismagulov made it super tough for him. Like, Arman Tsarukyan was always on him, but he was defending the takedowns pretty well, getting up from him, making it very, very hard for Arman Tsarukyan to win that matchup, and was tiring him out. Just lots of failed takedowns. I think, how many takedowns did Arman Tsarukyan even attempt there? Because he just kept pushing a pace there. We'll see if Grant Dawson can do that. I don't know if he can. I can see Damir Ismagulov kind of defending some of these takedowns and then hurting Grant Dawson on the feet, winning this one by decision. I'm going to go with Damir Ismagulov in this matchup. I think he has really good takedown defense, a really good fighter in general. Defends the takedowns, will be better on the feet here. I think he does win this one by decision. 67% for Damir Ismagulov, 88% by decision. 33% for Dawson is very interesting. I wonder why people are picking him here, but we'll see what happens. I don't think Grant Dawson can control him like Arman Tsarukyan did. Maybe he can have points in this fight where he does control him a little bit, but I don't know if Grant Dawson can keep up that pace in general. So we'll see what happens here. Very interesting matchup in general. We'll see what Grant Dawson can do, but I do have Damir Ismagulov by decision. Up the card, we have Sean Strickland versus Abus Magomedov for our main event. Sean Strickland coming off a win over Nasruddin Imavov, I believe on 4 days' notice. I believe at 205 as well, 5-round fight. Actually looked like he had better cardio than Nasruddin Imavov in that matchup, which was pretty interesting. Lost to Jared Cannonier's fight by split decision. I thought Sean Strickland should have won that one. I don't know how people think Jared Cannonier won that, but I guess he could. There's an argument for it, but I don't know if it's that good of an argument in general. Lost to Alex Pereira by KO, beat Jack Hermanson by split decision, and then beat Uriah Hall by decision. Abus Magomedov came into the UFC, front kicked and landed a few punches, KO'd Dustin Stoltzfus, and is now getting, I believe, Sean Strickland's ranked like number 6 or something, maybe number 7. I don't know exactly his rank, but he's fighting a top 10, top 8, top 7 middleweight after beating Dustin Stoltzfus, who's not that good in the UFC. It was a pretty big surprise to me, but I don't know. UFC matchmaking, I guess you kind of just need to put contenders in there, and maybe they wanted to put some Magomedov, some Obs, Aliskerovs in there to make it a little bit tough on Israel Adesanya with some of these wrestlers, maybe. I don't know. But Abus Magomedov, he is 32 years of age, but isn't the most active fighter. 9 months ago was his last fight against Stoltzfus. 2 years, 6 months ago before then, 4 years ago, 4 years, 5 months. So he was a little bit more active here, but recently he just hasn't been as active. So we don't really know exactly what he is at this point. I mean, he front kicked Dustin Stoltzfus, who's probably shouldn't even be in the UFC at this point. He got into the UFC, I believe, from Joe Pyfer injuring or like at least like snapping his arm on a takedown against Dustin Stoltzfus, and that's how he got in the UFC. So he probably shouldn't even be in the UFC in general. I think Sean Strickland wins this one. He has really good takedown defense. Again, we still haven't seen much of Abus Magomedov. He's a little bit more wild. He's going to use a little bit more of his length. He does have some good kicks, does have some decent power in his hands, but again, we haven't seen him against UFC level competition. He's getting thrusted in the top position already against Sean Strickland, who at this point, I guess he's a top middleweight fighter. You see what Marvin Vettori was like against Jared Cannonier, and Jared Cannonier looked really good in that matchup, but I'm just going to be real. I just don't understand. Like, Sean Strickland looked really good against Nasruddin Imavov on 4 days' notice. I thought he beat Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier looked good against Marvin Vettori, so maybe there's just a new Jared Cannonier at this point, but I don't know. I think Sean Strickland can defend the takedowns if Abus Magomedov looks for him. I think at this point he does keep quite a high guard than what he used to. He used to just like pat hands a little bit more and kind of get hit quite a bit, but now he is kind of keeping his hands up a little bit higher. You saw that in the Imavov fight and the Jared Cannonier fight because of the power. He learned his lesson from Alex Pereira because he was just so open. Like, he was just keeping his hands down low and was just trying to block like this, but now he's keeping his hands a little bit higher at points, and it is kind of just tapping his hands. So I don't know if front kicks are going to land on Strickland. I don't know if high kicks are going to land on Strickland. I just don't know what Abus Magomedov is at this point. I just don't know. And Strickland does have some weird power in his hands. It doesn't look like he throws heavy, but for some reason they hurt his opponent really badly. Maybe he ends up getting a KO. Abus Magomedov did get KO'd by a 40-year-old Lewis Taylor out cold 4.5 years ago. So again, I'd like to say I know more about this, but in all honesty, like, it's so hard to find even like some of his fights from recent. So I don't know. I am going to go with Sean Strickland on this one. I don't know why people are taking Abbas Magomedov. Maybe they're just hoping that he does win this one, and they're early or whatever, and they're just betting on potential, I guess. 75% for Tapology here for Strickland, 80% by decision. I think that's probably right. Maybe he does end up hurting Abbas and finishing him. Maybe Abbas gasses out in the later rounds. We don't know. But I'm going to go with Sean Strickland, minus 175 here. Maybe that's something you might want to look at. Sean Strickland by decision. That's what I'm going to have in this one. I haven't seen enough of Abbas Magomedov to pick him here. So that's what I have for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the main event, and I'll see you guys next time.